Okay, so today we started out with the song Should Have Been a Cowboy by Toby Keith, for those of you that are gone today. But I wanted to look at some of the lyrics. Okay, let's see here. Miss Kitty, have you ever thought of running away and settling down? Would you marry me if I asked you twice and begged you pretty please? His heart wasn't in it. They never tied the knot. He never hung his hat up at Kitty's place. What is that saying? He what? He doesn't settle down. And isn't that true what we told you about the Cowboys? They didn't want to settle down, right? Because they were out on the range. So you understand that. And then there's another part where it says, just like Jean and Roy. Do you know who they're talking about? Jean, Audrey, and Roy Rogers. Both very famous people that starred in Westerns, like in the 40s and 50s. They were kind of like famous in that day, and they did a lot of Westerns. So he's saying just like Jean and Roy, carrying the 6 shooters, you know, all those things that we've talked about. When I taught in Texas, we lived in Dallas for 2 years, this song had just come out. And in Texas, everybody loves country music, and everybody loves Cowboys. So, especially because they are the Cowboys, you know, the football team. So they love this song, and they love Toby Keith. So it was a really big song when we were down there. And after studying the Cowboys, it made a little more sense, you know? Okay, so let's finish up what we started. And go back to where we were, which is, we were talking about the holsters, weren't we? Okay. All right. So remember that you wanted to have any little extra fourth of a second, fraction of a second to give you that edge. Because if you lose, what happens, Max? You die, right? It isn't like you just pout and go home because you lost, but you're dead. So they would do little things that they could to try to get that edge. Now we were talking about the first thing you did. I'm sorry, I don't have a lovely holster. We're going to use our little toy holster here. But if you just use the holster the way that it's purchased, the gun does not sit in it very well. Because again, my gun might be different than his gun. So the first thing they would do is they would shape it, just like you shape your baseball gloves and your softball gloves. And that's where we left off, right? So first of all, some of you said when you do that with your glove, you put a ball in it and you tie it up. Now, do you put anything on the glove? What's that? You put a grease on it or an oil on it to soften the leather, right? They would do the exact same thing with their holster, okay? And then anybody do anything else after you tie it up? Put more on and keep putting more on so that it shapes over the ball. What else? You can wash it. I've never heard that. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, you keep moving it, rubbing it, and shaping it. Good.
Well, my brothers were in baseball, and they had to use this like certain spray, and then they put it in the oven and baked it.
Yeah. Now, I never did that, but I guess now there are people that actually put it in the oven to kind of bake it and give it the right kind of feel. And they would do the exact same thing to their holster so that it would fit the exact shape of the gun that they used. It was, again, giving you that edge because you don't want to go to pull that gun and it gets stuck. That would be bad, right? Because you're not getting that gun out. So they used to do that. They also would do some other little things that would help them out. For example, because a lot of times the holster went really deep, so they would put wads of paper or leather and ball it up and put it in the bottom of the holster. So instead of the gun being in here, it would be here. So it was easier to grab. Again, fourth of a second helps you out. And anything like that would help them on the draw. So let's talk about the rules of a duel, all right? So let me get a couple of volunteers up here. All right, come on up, Brandon. And Mitch, come on up. All right, so for now, I want you to just put this in your pocket. Okay, now there were 2 different ways that they did duels. Sometimes they would just stand at 2 different ends of the street or whatever, and they would look at each other with a mean eye and they would draw, okay? But most of the time, to make things fair, come here, boys, they would face back to back, and they would say, we're going paces. And you would go 10 paces. So someone would count, and they would go 1, 2, 3, and you'd walk with me. I'm going to have you do it in just a minute, okay? Now, you always had a second, and that second was there to make sure that you were doing the right thing and that you followed the rules. Because if you cheat in a duel, they will shoot you because you cheated, because it's about being fair, right? Okay, so the rules are you cannot touch your gun until you turn to shoot. So you can have your hand right next to that holster, but you cannot pull that gun until it's time to shoot. Now remember, guys, you also don't have automatics. So it means you have to cock that hammer back in order to shoot. You got the idea? All right, so we're gonna make these guys go paces. You're the judges, and you're gonna see who wins and who dies here. Now you gotta look at, did they cock the gun? Who was fastest? Where did they aim? Because obviously you want to shoot for the heart, boys, right? Okay, so think about when you turn around, where is his heart going to be? Kind of think about that, right? Because it's going to be opposite, okay? So you guys be the judges. You decide who wins this duel. Are you ready? Ready? Walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh!
I get a redo.
Now, guess what? This is exactly why they shaped their holster. Because for those of you that didn't see it at home, Brandon's gun got stuck in his holster, his pocket.
I call a redo.
You want to do one more?
Yes, that much.
Okay, try one more time. Now, we'll do 5 this time. Did you cock the gun? Did he do it? Did he? Good. Okay, put him in your holster, boys. We'll do 5 paces this time. Are you ready? Walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you think, judges? Mitch won still? I'm sorry, Les, you're dead.
His hand was on the gun.
Was he cheating?
Yep.
Now, if he had been cheating, then the guys that were the seconds would shoot him dead. It wasn't like they put you in jail for cheating, because you took a man's life. So they would actually shoot you dead if you cheated. Okay? So that's kind of explaining the rules up here. Now, there were also a lot of gun tricks that they practiced when they would practice for these hours. Some of them, well, they used a few, but the truth is most of them they didn't, because they were all very dangerous. Because remember, you hit the gun wrong, it could go off. And they did do that sometimes. So I'm going to show you these tricks, and you have some drawings at the bottom of your notes. And you're going to need to identify these, and I will do them for you on the test. You have to identify which one is which. Okay. All right. Now, these two were probably not used very much at all, but at this point, you're in trouble. Because here's what's happening in this situation. I am under arrest. The marshal has come to get me. I'm an outlaw. And so he tells me, hand over your gun, right? So I'm ready to hand this over to him, but to him, because if I came at him like this, that wouldn't be right? You don't want to point the gun at the enemy. So you come with your butts to the marshal. Well, the first one is called the road agent spin, which was probably the most dangerous. And this is kind of what it looks like. Let's see if I can do it. Nope. It's been a long time since I've done this. You basically pull it up and over and shoot him right before he grabs the gun. So the gun comes up towards your head and shoot this way. I'll get to that in a minute. So that is called the road agent spin. Like I said, it was the most rarely used because obviously, what do you have a chance of doing? Shooting yourself in the face, which happened at times. But again, remember, I'm probably going to be hung if you arrest me anyway, so I got nothing to lose. Now you ask, can you go the other way? The other way is called the roll. So instead of going towards you, you go out, and it can be done really fast. Yep. Although sometimes they're looking for that too. It depended on which gunslinger liked which tricks. But this one goes out and away, and you shoot. Those of you that came to the movie Tombstone, do you remember when Curly Bill was all drunk and he was shooting in the street? And he did that to the marshal, he shot him. He did a double roll. So he handed over his guns like this and went and gave him 2 blasts in the chest and killed him. For real. In real history, he did that in Tombstone. Okay? So those are the first 2. Now, these were used more so in real gunfighting. The first one is fanning the hammer, and Ryan talks about that. Gunslingers wanted to be as fast as possible, so they wanted to shoot as quickly as they could. So this is fanning the hammer, so that you can shoot every time after you cock the hammer. Okay, that's the hammer. Okay, so that's called fanning the hammer. Remember, they only have 5 bullets usually, right? So that's why we go to the border shift. In a lot of movies, you will see them doing this. They'll use, like, for those of you at home, I'm holding a gun in my right hand, and I take my thumb of my right hand, and I cock it, and then I shoot. Way too slow. They wouldn't have done that for real, okay? They would have taken the other hand to cock it and shoot because it's faster, okay? Besides, these guys, yes, they practice with both hands, but we all have a dominant hand, right? We're all right-handed or left-handed. So in movies, you will even see this. You'll see them going with both thumbs, shooting with their left and their right. That really was not very realistic. Typically, here's what they would do. They would have both guns loaded, as many bullets, 5 or 6 depending, okay? They would unload the one in their strong hand. My strong hand is my right hand. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would drop this gun, throw this one across, and bring it to my strong hand, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the same hand. That is the border shift. And that's why. You want to get the gun to your strong hand so you're fast. Okay? So they typically did not use their weak hand with shooting. And you only got 5 bullets, so you got to get some bullets over there quick. And if you look at some of these Westerns, it's hilarious. Because they'll be shooting like 40 bullets out of the same gun. All that craziness. Come on. Not real. A lot of times, they shot themselves doing these stunts, as you can imagine. But I will tell you, there are some quick people out there. Now, in the old days, it was said there were 2 outlaws that were the fastest. Anybody know who they were? Doc Holliday, absolutely. And argumentably, the fastest. And the other one was? Johnny Ringo, yes. That's you, yeah. Those 2 were considered the fastest in the West, and they end up facing off. I won't tell what happens, but you have to see the movie. So I'm going to show you a clip from the movie Tombstone. I'm not going to show you the end scene. For those of you that saw it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you the first time they have words with each other, because they have heard about each other. Word would spread. Oh my, it's like us hearing about some athlete that's really awesome, right? Like, oh my gosh, he's so good. He's like 7 foot and blah, blah, blah. He would hear about Doc Holliday, and Doc Holliday definitely knew about Ringo. So in this case, they are both very educated men, and they are going head to head basically, and they're sitting in a bar, and everybody's a little tense, and you're going to see their speed of their hands, and you'll also see how Doc Holliday makes fun of him. Check it out. When they're arguing, they're saying things like, "I'm the fastest there is. You should see my pistolas." You know, they're talking smack through the whole thing. So how did Doc Holliday make fun of him? Trolling the cop instead, right? Now, he really actually kind of deflected what could have been a really bloody scene, right? And not to say Doc Holliday wouldn't have done it, but they were a little worried because there were a lot of the enemy in there. So that's kind of a fun story. We'll learn about the OK Corral coming up. So, what's that? Yeah. So Johnny Ringo was there. Curly Bill was the guy in red. And then a lot of their boys were in the bar that night. So they were kind of outnumbered. So he wanted to show that I'll face off with you, but not right now. And they face off later. So, all right. So let's talk about some other things when we talk about guns. First of all, it was really bad luck to an outlaw, a gunman, anybody, to snap a gun on an empty chamber. Even today, those of you that are hunters, did your parents ever yell at you for shooting the gun without a bullet in it? Snapping it? They yell at you, right? Why do they yell at you? It's not good for the gun. Exactly. Now, that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is very obvious in their day. Why was it bad luck to snap on an empty chamber? Think about it. Think about our face-off. Because if Mitch snaps on an empty chamber and Brandon doesn't, guess what happens to Mitch? He's dead. Yeah, it's bad luck because it means that you don't have a bullet, but your enemy does. So you're probably dead. So they hated that. You never did that. And that's kind of where that comes from. Now, there is a special way to disarm a gunman, an outlaw in particular, because remember, they are faster than you probably. Okay, they're really, really good. So let's see. Let's get a girl up here. How about Becky? Will you come on up? I'm gonna put a belt on you. Okay, so go ahead and just put this belt on you, kind of loose around there. There you go, and then put this by, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right.
Okay, so we'll put that right by this hip. There you go. It's gonna fall right off you, isn't it? Okay, but here's what they would tell you to do. Number one, you never confront them from the front because they're too fast from the front. You would say, turn around. Hands up. Nice and high, holding up the sky, like they say, right? Hands are high. Now you'd say, very carefully with your left hand, unbuckle your holster or your belt. Now you pray to God that she's not left-handed or I'm probably dead. But that's why you say left hand. And then you would get his guns or her guns away from her. That was the way that you actually took it away from an outlaw. Because otherwise, they would actually outspeed you and they would kill you. So always face the other way. Thank you very much, Becky. So that's kind of how you take away your fangs from an outlaw. That is a picture of Jesse James holding up someplace. Looks like, hands up, Sheriff. It says, the prison is not built that will hold Jesse James. All right, and I think that's the end of our notes for today. Okay. Now we're going to do a little thing with your posters. You probably see them all around the room. So let me hand those out, and then we'll talk about what you're going to do.